Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, and today we are doing episode 1 of a new beginner's guide series. There's a lot of new players in the game, and some of the issues with my earlier beginner's guide video is one, it's out of date. There's new patches, new aircraft, new equipment systems in place, but on top of that, it also was showcasing aircraft that are kind of like tier 5 and above. So somebody asked me, they said, hey, could you do it starting at tier 1? Well, the whole series isn't going to be at tier 1 just because we're not going to have the availability of aircraft for us to be able to showcase the different styles of play, but I did think it was worthwhile to show what it looks like to start as a new player. Aside from the fact that we do have a Bristol down here, I'm going to go ahead and hop into the AR-65 or the Arado 65 German Tier 1 multi-role. You'll see that the pilot only has a single skill point, and that's how they all start. You'll have one Tier 1 for each nationality. In order for you to get a better understanding of how the tech tree works, up at the top you have these 4 different buttons, and we're going to click on Tech Tree. You can see the 5 different primary nations that you can work your way through. And then there's 2 premium nations, if you would, which is China and Europe. Now, these are things you have to buy with real-world currency, and I don't advocate going out and buying those initially because you're just starting out in the game, and who knows if it's really going to be worth an investment of external funds, since this game is meant to be free to play. So you might as well get your money's worth, hop in free to play, see if it's even worth investing any extra funds into, being aware that this is not a pay to win, but more of a pay to advance more quickly and have access to maybe some particular aircraft that you wouldn't normally see. But aside from that, let's go ahead and get back to the hangar. So we're starting out in our German AR-65. Basic things right off the get-go is I hit my escape key, I'm going to settings, and I highly recommend that you go ahead and go to the alternate view mode, which I believe is under battle interface. There it is. There's an alternate interface button over here. By hitting the alt button allows you to be able to switch between 2 different views of the enemy aircraft. One is more detailed information and the other one is less information. You're going to end up hitting this button a lot. But if you know anything about keyboard commands, you'll know that if you're holding Alt and you hit a button like F4, which is also used in this game for targeting aircraft, you'll shut down the current program. Or if you hit Alt and Tab, you'll actually tab out of the video game that you're actually playing at that moment. So in order to make this a little bit less possible, and it's going to be, by default, it's going to be hold the key. So you're going to end up holding the Alt key a lot. But if you switch it to press the key, it becomes a toggle. So you just tap Alt. So you're less likely to have your thumb holding down that Alt button, causing that situation to occur. Additionally, a lot of people like to ask me, hey V, I see that you got a different type of setup for your cockpit. It's underneath the General tab, underneath Advanced Settings, and over here you see that there's these checkboxes you can click on and off that will increase the amount of data that is displayed on the screen, okay? The other thing is the bank indicator. So the bank indicator is that line with a V in the middle. I like to have it with Show Aircraft Bank because the camera is always going to be essentially level with the horizon, but it's the aircraft that you want to know its orientation. This is usually beneficial when you're in the gun sights, that way you know which way your wings are oriented. Basic control schemes are that you use your W, A, S, and D keys. The A and D will control your roll left, roll right, and the W will allow you to boost for most aircraft are between like 5 and 30 seconds if you're in a heavy. And then the S key operates as kind of an air brake. Flaps are typically operated automatically. I have mine set to manual, but that's more for when we start messing around with ground attack aircraft, not as necessary when you're starting out. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our pilot. He already has a skill point unlocked. You don't have the option of earning experience to unlock skill points until your pilot has reached 100% proficiency in the aircraft he's flying in. Currently, this pilot is proficient at 100% right out of the gate, in the AR-65 with a single skill point attributed. Over here we can see that the XP to next skill point is going to be 20,000 experience points. We'll talk about how you get these later at the end result screen once we finish the battle we're about to jump into. First thing I usually advocate for most people flying light fighters is to go ahead and grab this firefighter skill. This will allow you to be able to put out a fire on your aircraft by doing a tight little roll maneuver. By clicking on one of these buttons over here or by clicking your services tab, you can put equipment and consumables on your aircraft. At this early stage of the game, the most that you may want to do is go ahead and put first aid dressing on your aircraft. You'll note that there's a 1 icon in the top right corner of the symbol for this medkit. That means that the 1 key on your keyboard will actually activate that medkit, and it will allow you to be able to heal your pilot. It does have a cooldown time of 90 seconds in between uses. So if your pilot's ever injured, your gun reticle will get a lot bigger, your bullets will kind of go everywhere, and your bombs are less likely to hit on target. Currently, we are unupgraded when I hit this upgrade button, and we need to earn aircraft experience in order to upgrade the airframe, the bombs, the guns, as well as the engine. At the top here, you see that there is a blue number with a silver star. That is aircraft experience. That is particular to this aircraft that we have loaded. Every battle, we will earn experience on this airframe, and we can spend it on the below upgrades or use it to unlock one of the 3 aircraft that are listed down below. And we'll talk more about that after we finish our fight. The green number is representative of free experience. You get a little bit of free experience every single time you fly in a battle. Much less than what you get for your normal experience on the aircraft, but it piles up, and you can see it on the right hand side of my screen here, a bunch of free XP that we can use to be able to upgrade some of our aircraft much more quickly. So if we find ourselves struggling with a particular airframe during the upgrade process, we can get the better guns or the better engine right away. So that way it makes that grind just a little bit easier. Highly recommend holding on to that free experience for the times that you start to get really frustrated and want to get an aircraft back up to its full capability. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop into our first battle in World of Warplanes. Alright, so you've hit the battle button on your first fight, you're starting to get a little bit anxious, and you see this timer. First of all, it's going to show you the aircraft you're in, and it's also going to show you how much time you have been in the queue for the next battle, as well as an average time in queue. Until that number stops counting, you can always hit the leave queue button until it counts down to a point where it finds a match with suitable enemy and friendly teammates to be able to fill out a team. There is going to be a balance they're going to try to achieve of human players versus bots, because there are a lot of bot aircraft in the game. Currently, the enemy has an I-215 player and a P-26 at tier 2. We have a Goldfinch as well as ourselves. By hitting the tab button, we can pull up this overview, and in order for me to determine who is a human player, I can simply right-click on the names, and it will give me the option of reporting, add to ignore, add to contact list, or disable voice messages. But if I do that with these other names, you'll see nothing happens. That's because they're all bots. Eventually, you'll start to recognize names that are clearly going to be people, especially if they have special characters or numbers in their name. For every zone you capture, every 5 seconds, you will get 3 points towards capture against the enemy team. Depending on the tier level of the game and depending on how many zones there are to capture, dictates how many points it takes in order to achieve a victory. There are 2 ways to achieve victory in this game. One is to get those points that we just talked about and beating the enemy on overall capture. The other is, there is a point in the game where you'll hit something called a squall line. Squall line is the point where your aircraft will no longer be able to respawn. Because one of the fun things about this game is that even if you get shot down, you have the opportunity to be able to come back into the fight and get a little bit of vengeance on the enemy. What do we have up here? That's the heavy aircraft. So you can keep coming back over and over again. You can see we captured our zone first, and there's a +3 on that bar up at the top, and we're counting away. When it hits squall line, if you can kill all of the enemy aircraft, so that way the list goes solid red, then there's nobody left on the enemy team to fight you, and you will win by default. So that's the second way to win. But primarily, we're going to want to get these capture points. Currently, we're counting away at 6 per 5-second tick, if you would. And they have yet to capture their airfield. We are going to try and kill this ground attack aircraft here. That was in the zone, so it gave us some capture points. Triangles are going to represent ground attack or attack aircraft that are primarily meant to shoot, well, ground targets. While heavy fighters, which are the diamonds with a line slashed through them, like this AO-192, typically have a lot more hit points but turn very slowly with much bigger guns. And then you have light fighters, which are represented by a diamond, and multi-rolls, which are represented by more of a teardrop shape, as you see in the case of our aircraft. Multi-rolls will allow you to be able to carry bombs or rockets in addition to your forward-firing guns. And while they can dogfight, as you see we are doing here, they excel at being a jack-of-all-trades, master of none, if you would. We have successfully captured this zone by destroying enemy aircraft, but if we had bombs, we could have dropped them on some of these structures. In order to get any capture points, however, we'd have to destroy every structure inside that square underneath my little reticle there, or all the targets underneath my reticle here for this air defense site. A little bit hard to see right now because it's in a lockout session. You see there's 5 seconds on the timer. Nobody can try and capture that zone, and all the buildings are quickly respawning, and so are the defense aircraft. There is a human player and a P-26. I'm going to hit my F4 button while my reticle is on the aircraft to indicate that I think he needs to be a focused target. But I'm going to go ahead and zip right past him for the time being because I don't want him coming after me. He just took my engine, unfortunately. So we are going to have to fight this individual. We have to try and pull lead, and I'm rolling forward on my mouse button in order to zoom in on the target. Currently my engine is out, but eventually it will heal back up. You'll see that it's yellow, which means that it can easily be taken out again. Currently we have air superiority, which means we've captured every zone on the map. What that means is that instead of every 5 seconds getting points towards the capture, we start getting points every second. It's almost like a mercy rule built into the game that if the enemy team is struggling, then the air superiority makes the game end a little bit faster. Which isn't always a good thing because you usually get a ×2 multiplier on your first win of the day. So if you win too quickly, you don't earn enough points in order for you to be able to maximize your ×2 victory for the day. So I would rather the enemy actually control the zone so I'd have more time to destroy more aircraft in dogfights. Some of your health will regen if you get a little bit low, and it will plus back up to I think about 1/4 of your overall hit points. So whenever your health gets into the red and your bar turns like a flashing yellow or white and red color, it will slowly regen a majority of that health. You can see I'm hitting my Alt button on and off, and in the bottom right is my mini map. When I let go of the Alt button, it just shows arrows to show the direction that the aircraft are traveling, and when I hit Alt again, it will show the icon for the aircraft, so I know what I'm getting in against. This was only a 600 point match, so it ended fairly quickly, which is to be expected this early on. We ended up picking up a special medal here for a hat trick, which is destroying one of 3 different type of aircraft. Our personal point score was 5,840, and we managed to get first place on our team. That isn't necessarily a stellar score, but it's also not a bad score considering that we achieved air superiority so early on. Now we're going to go back to the hangar and kind of dissect what the end results screen actually means. I'm going to ignore some of these pop-ups starting out because they will serve to confuse some of the newer players. But if you want to take the time to read into it, there's essentially a series of rewards for newer players to kind of entice you to continue playing. Just accept your reward and continue on, and just be happy that you got it, because honestly, if you sit here and try to figure out how to specifically get each one of those achievements this early in the game, you're just going to be distracting yourself from your end goal. Highly recommend that that's something that you do investigate, but not when you first start playing the game. Just enjoy it for what it is and try to get better by learning how the aircraft work. We managed to kill a total of 8 enemy aircraft, and you can actually hover your mouse over it and it will show you each type of aircraft that was destroyed. We only killed 4 aircraft from the enemy team. However, we also killed 4 of the aircraft that were the defense aircraft over the airfield and that garrison. By doing that, we managed to achieve 220 capture points as well as capturing those 2 sectors, which meant that we ended up getting a decent amount of personal points, 5,840, and our result for our ×3 experience bonus was 1,761 experience on the aircraft. The same amount of experience was also applied to our pilot. So if we go back and look at our pilot, before we saw that it was going to take 20,000 experience points in order to get our next skill. However, we have already made a decent amount of progress towards getting towards that 20,000 points that we need to get the next skill attribute unlocked. This is exponential, however, so even though we may get the next skill point, a lot of these require 2 skill points, so if you want to save those up, you're probably going to have to be flying these aircraft quite a bit. You can accelerate by using some of your free XP, but I don't recommend doing that this early on. You're going to want that free XP, like I said, for when you get stuck. If you want to see how everyone else did, you can go to the Team Score tab, and when you click on each one of these aircraft, you can see a similar layout to what we saw for our personal score. For a little bit more fun, a lot of people like the summary screen. Gives you a nice scroll of what you've actually achieved, and then you can kind of see the final results as well as how much free experience we earned, which was a total of 88. Like I said, it's not a lot, but it does add up over time, and when you're in a situation where you really need it, it is very beneficial. Purchasing modules, that's ironically exactly what we're going to go talk about right now. So let's go ahead and hop to our upgrades button. And we can see here that we can upgrade the airframe and the engine. Now, in order for us to be able to buy the HE-51 or the AR-68 or even the AO-192, we have to unlock other modules. So the airframe is going to be necessary regardless of what we want to do. So we're going to go ahead and unlock that. We haven't purchased it, we've just unlocked it. You can see it's now changed from being stars at the top of the icon to being silver represented on the bottom. If we do decide to upgrade the airframe, it'll give us some hit points, and in some cases it actually gives you more maneuverability. Not in this one though. To make things a little bit clearer though, when you want to go on to the next aircraft, I'm going to click on the Tech Tree tab, and let's go ahead and take a look at how much experience it's actually going to take to unlock each one of these airframes. We know it'll take 185 experience in order to unlock this HE-51. But we still have to upgrade the engine in order to do that. So let's go ahead and research the engine as well. I do highly recommend unlocking every aircraft that comes off of the one that you're on. So that way it gives you some options in the future in case you decide that you want to fly a different type of aircraft. You don't have to go back and repurchase your tier 1 aircraft again. So looking at this, which line do you want to go down? It really is dependent on the person, but if I was to make a recommendation right from the get-go, it wouldn't be the German aircraft. I'd actually highly recommend going down the UK fighters, because the Spitfire line is very forgiving and it allows you to be able to focus more on how the game mechanics work and less on how to fly your aircraft, because this aircraft will essentially do what you ask it to do. You'll know when you've gone too high because the aircraft will start to stall, and it's very forgiving in a stall situation and has decent firepower, and it only gets better the longer you fly it. And if you include the Bristol 146, these aircraft fly very similar to each other all the way through the Spitfire and arguably up to Tier 9 with the Attacker. Although the Attacker is a little bit faster and less maneuverable, I think you'll pretty much have a good handle on the game by the time you get to that point. But with that said, let's go back to our German aircraft because that's where we started, and I would like to unlock each one of these aircraft. Why am I doing this? Like I said, it opens up options for us in the future. And for the sake of completionism, we still have a ton of experience points on this aircraft, so we can actually unlock everything that there is for this airframe. But we're not going to purchase anything. You'll see that we hit elite status. Once you've unlocked all the modules, you can advance your crew training by clicking on a button that's not appearing right now, but once you hit elite, there'll be a button right here where the barracks is where you can check it, and all your experience for the aircraft will be added to your pilot experience. That way you get that much more per battle, allowing you to be able to get those skill points early on. But for the sake of discussion, we're going to go ahead and sell this aircraft right from the get-go, and we're going to send the pilot to the barracks. So we're selling the Tier 1 in order to open up a hangar slot. And now I am going to go to the tech tree. I'm going to click on the aircraft I want, which is going to be the AR-80. And I am going to, 86, and I am going to purchase this airframe. I am not going to take a crew initially. We will be purchasing. And I will actually transfer the pilot from the last aircraft to this one by clicking on pilot, clicking on the AR-65 pilot. And now we can retrain for this aircraft for free. We lose the ability to use our special skill until the pilot's back up to 100%, but that will only take 50,000 experience, and that will go by very quickly. Please note that your advancement for skill points is locked at this point, so you won't be getting any points towards the next skill. But we have unlocked the next airframe, and since we were able to upgrade the engine and the guns from the previous aircraft, those carry over, and that's why it's only going to cost us silver. We can already upgrade the guns on the aircraft, and we can also upgrade the engine right from the start. So now we have an upgraded engine, upgraded set of guns. In one more battle with a ×3 due to a special weekend event, will allow us to be able to upgrade the airframe and then also another set of guns. So we've already got a pretty good start, and in no time I think you guys will find yourself at Tier 5, and that's when the options start to come into play for which type of aircraft fits your playstyle. But until we get to episode 2 of this series, hope you guys have enjoyed this video and it helps you or maybe some of your friends as they get started in this game. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.